Hello everyone. So today's video is about demystifying the popular statements around the CISSP exam. So if you're actually preparing for this exam, you might have heard there's a very high chance that you've heard the statement think like a manager. And while I was also preparing for the exam, I checked so many LinkedIn posts, YouTube videos, and all that. And you see different content around why you should think like a manager to pass the CISSP exam. But after I sat for this exam in November, I can boldly say that, this statement is wrong. So the statement can actually be true for like say 5% of the questions, but 5% is not like substantial enough. So the most of the videos will say, think about the business overall picture, the business side. Don't think like a techie, don't think like the person actually carrying out the job, think like a manager, what's the overall risk to the organization and all that. While I think, yeah, that might be correct in maybe instances where they've said, okay, what's the greatest concern to the organization? What's the greatest risk to the organization? That can come into play. But I feel like that only applied to like 5% of all the questions. So I don't think it's 100% accurate to say, oh, think like a manager to pass the CISSP exam. So I think, well, probably maybe the CISSP examiners have cracked the code and they've changed the questions this time around. But that's just my opinion after writing the exam. So for me, after writing this exam, I would say it's incorrect to say think like a manager. I think the right statement should be think like a lawyer. So, what does it mean when I say think like a lawyer? I feel like the questions are actually judging how you actually think, or they want you to actually defend. I think that's the right thing, the right word. They want you to defend your your options basically. Why have you selected this answer? And then they try to test you by giving you similar options with different questions. So are you just doing mini mini more? Do you really understand why you are selecting this option? And if you have different questions, or if they give you different a different question with similar options, will you still be able to select the right thing? So I think that's one of the reasons why I would say, it's testing how you can actually defend the answers you are choosing. From my experience, I would say that you cannot rush to select an answer from the options. If you rush, you might be wrong. You need to read the English, emphasis on English. You might look at the option and the terms looks very familiar and all that, but they might have put a particular word that will actually change the overall idea behind the question in the question. So there might be just one word that will change what they expect you to select. But if you don't pay attention to the English behind the question, then you might have selected the wrong, option. You might have selected the wrong answer. So it's important that you read English. Read English. Read the question as if you don't actually understand English. You read it one after the other. Read it one after the other. After you've read it, you now read the options. From reading the option, it's usually you get like four options. So from those four, it will be easy to eliminate two options out of it, like, oh, these two, totally out of it. But in most situations, like 80% of the situations, you are actually left with two options that seem correct. So as much as possible, you need to read the question again. Try to understand the intention behind the question. What's the intention? What are they trying to get? You have to think like, what do I think this examiner was thinking when he was setting this question? So, and then eventually you have to just go for one out of the two options you have left, because 80% of the situations you are not 100% certain that you've selected the right answer, but you have to go with your professional judgment basically. So that's the other reason. that I think you need to think like a lawyer. You need to understand English, read the English, and read the intention behind the question, basically. So just like any professional certification exam, the questions are not straightforward. It's not, oh, what is a risk or what, no, of course, that's not what you will get. So most of the questions are around what's the best concern, what's the greatest concern, what's the best option, what's the best thing to do, what's the least thing to do in this scenario. So, I don't, I wouldn't advise anyone to be cramming acronyms, and all that, AB. No, no, no. There's no need to cram acronyms. There's no need for seven types of 7 steps of risk assessment. Seven is almost not relevant really. So, and then as much as there's really no need to maybe cram anything, but you still need to understand the technical terms, the terminologies. You need to understand it because that's the only way you can eliminate things from the option. There's no need to cram any um, definition. There's no need to cram any 5 types of anything, but you need to understand the concepts. You need to understand the technical terminologies. That's the only way you can eliminate, options from the options presented to you. Then I wouldn't advise anyone, say maybe 1 to 2 years in the cybersecurity field or IT field, to actually sit for this exam because it's not really about reading a book. In some situations you need experience really, and experience is gotten over time. It's not a 1 year thing. So I would advise anyone to at least maybe wait for like 5 years. Be sure you've understood basic things in IT and cybersecurity before you actually write the exam. And then that in summary, you probably still need to think like a manager, but then maybe in 5% of the whole scenario. So I would say the best advice is for you to think like a lawyer because you need to decode what the person is trying to, examine. What's the examiner's thoughts? What's their intention behind this question? You need to investigate. That's the word. So you need to investigate what is the intention behind this question. What's this person trying to say from this question? Investigate. So think like a lawyer. Decode the intention behind the question, and then that's the only way you can actually select the right answer from the options. So thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.